Hey, welcome to Dan's Model Works, and this is our 5th annual Father's Day tribute. And as you can probably tell from the thumbnail, we are going to be making a refrigerated trailer, and we're going to be using this package of no-name orange cream bars to do it. So I suppose first of all, you may be wondering, what does this have to do with Father's Day or your father? People who've watched this channel for the last 3 years or so will know that my father passed away in 2017, just before Father's Day. I had always wanted to do a Loblaws trailer. What a lot of people probably know is I work for Canada's largest grocery chain, which is Loblaws. And I actually work for a division called Superstore. I work for them full-time. And I also work part-time for kind of one of the discount branch of the chain, which is No Frills. And this is not the same No Frills that had a dead body in it in the US. No, different company, different company. I'd always wanted to do a Loblaws trailer with graphics on the side and everything like that. Not because I'm a huge company fan, but hey, I've worked for them for almost 25 years. So I thought that would be cool. And I was going to do it in N scale. And then when I kind of put away my model trains and lost interest in that, I kind of shelved the idea. Now we come to how this project kind of ties into our Father's Day tributes. No, my dad was not a truck driver, at least not an over-the-road truck driver. He never worked for Loblaws. Back when I was like 1 or 2 years old, he did work for IGA as a part-time job for a while, but he was never a truck driver in terms of this. He did drive army trucks when he was a member of the Canadian Armed Forces, but never this sort of truck here. The reason that I want to tie this trailer project to the Father's Day tribute lays into the orange cream bars. Now, we took my father to Parkwood Hospital a week before he passed away for palliative care. Mostly because, he was so far advanced with cancer that to try to take care of him at home would have been extremely difficult. And not only that, both he and my mom didn't want, their house to be something that their grandkids, associated with their papa dying. The day that I drove him to the hospital and they were getting him settled in, the nurses were asking if there's anything in particular, any sort of treat he wanted to eat. Now, he had not been eating at all, mostly because the tumors that were in his abdominal cavity were just, causing so much discomfort. But kind of out of the blue, which surprised us because it wasn't something that, was ever a favorite of his, he said, I could really go for an orange creamsicle. I want an orange creamsicle. So I could have bought the name brand, the genuine creamsicles made by here in Canada. It's Unilever, but the brand name, of course, is Popsicle. But in one of those packages, you're getting 3 grape, 3 cherry, and 3 orange. No, sorry, you're getting 4 of each. You're getting 4 cherry, 4 grape, and 4 orange. Well, he wants orange. He doesn't want the other flavors. So I went to my store and I picked up a box. Not this box. It was the same packaging, but, this one I bought more recently. And I brought it into the hospital, and he must have scarfed that first one back in a few seconds. And he probably didn't have a ton of them, but it was something he enjoyed in the last few days of his life. Kind of at the back of my mind, I was kind of thinking, wouldn't it be interesting to combine these graphics on the side of a Loblaws refrigerated truck? Now, this is not so far-fetched. A lot of Loblaws trucks will have either no-name products on the sides, or they'll have our premium product, which is, President's Choice. Nothing to do with the U.S. president, but President's Choice products featured on the sides. As a matter of fact, the one I originally wanted to do had a giant dog on the side of it, and it was for PC dog food. So what I want to do is I want to scan our box, and what I foresee is 3 of the orange creamsicles or cream bars going along, and then it'll say orange cream bars here, and then it'll have a couple of other identifying marks to say that it's no-name products. So that is our plan. That's what I want to get accomplished. And I should have started this a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. It's what is it? It's May 5th today. So I have just over a month to make this happen. I don't imagine that the trailer is going to be too difficult to put together. The biggest challenge is going to be scanning our graphics into the computer. As you can see on our computer, we've got the image of the orange cream bar box. We've scanned that in. We also scanned in a couple of other graphics. I have my second oldest of my many offspring here, Logan.
Hi, I work at Two No Frills. Not the same one as my dad, though, so I've seen many trucks as well.
Yeah, I figured it would, we would go over some designs. We don't want it to be exact because we're not even sure if there was a creamsicle truck, but there's several different ones. There's ones that have got tomatoes on the side. There's some that have got cups of tea or coffee on them. Um, so we want one that follows in that sort of germ, but we still want it to be correct.
It's got to be canon.
That's right. It's got to be canon. It's got to fit in with the Loblaws universe here. So as you can see, we've got our basic orange cream bar box. And then this is the first one I put together. And you can see it says orange cream bars, and it's got 3 of the creamsicles there. And then we were looking at that, and we were like thinking, does it actually say the name of the product?
It does not.
It does not. We went online. Let's wake up the phone here. And actually, we had a hard time finding pictures of no-name trucks, which is surprising. But this is basically what we were looking for. It's this one right here. And we don't own the copyright to this, so we're hopefully not pissing anyone off. But at any rate, this is actually a miniature that they were selling. Right there, you can see. So this is a much earlier trailer here before they went with the all yellow. So the next one here is this one. So we've got the big no-name logo. I know it seems weird to say it's a logo, but in fact, this is a very specific typeface. But that looked a little too plain, and there was 2 different slogans that were used. Saving is simple, and the other one is saving you money or something like that. This is the one we decided to go with, but as you can see, it does not look right. And the reason is the no-name logo, I'm pretty sure, uses Helvetica Bold. And this is, I don't know, this is some cheapo beepo copyright free, kind of sort of like Helvetica. This is actually Helvetica Bold. I managed to find a word processor that would actually give that to me. So I printed that out, and then I had to scan it in order to get it into this program. And then I also put another smaller no-name there. And this is how the print quality comes out of our laser printer, which I think is pretty good. I mean, it certainly looks like the side of the box. Now, as for the trailer door, we're deviating a little bit from Canon for that, in that we're going to go with this treatment. I'm certain I've seen some of the no-name trailers that still have the PC we're switching or supermarkets for.
Yeah, I still see a bunch of those.
Yeah. But the thing is when it's up against your dock, you can't see the side of the trailer. But this is what I see most of the time.
Well, you see the no-name truck pulling in, and then when he gets to it, you see
That's
President's
right.
Choice.
So I am thinking that there are some no-name trailers that have the President's Choice logo, and we're switching supermarkets for. So that's what we're going to go for our roll-up door. You agree?
Yes.
Okay. Truck side number 5, and this image right here. Just a break from the time lapse. You can see I've got the rear door, to be the right hand side of the trailer, glued to the roof. And the left and right sides of the trailer, they're identical parts. They have the same part number. What you should know though from the instructions is there are more ribs at the front, so more rivets at the front than at the rear, because I was just looking at the pictures versus actually reading the instructions at first. I glued our nose onto the base, whereas what they suggest is that you assemble everything onto the roof, which doesn't have any protuberances such as your landing gear or your wheels, jam that all together, and then pop the floor on. So hopefully that's not going to cause any problems. Now, I've sanded the rivets on the side here fairly aggressively. They're still there, but seeing as we're going to be putting a paper overlay on this, I didn't want the rivets to be too pronounced, or else they would just basically be tearing through the paper. And in fact, these trailers are not painted. They have, it's basically a heavy plastic film that has the graphics printed on it, and that tends to diminish the rivets that you see in the real trailers. You can still see them, but they're not really hard edged. So, as you can see, the major assemblies are coming together. So I've applied my decals on the lower edge here. These are the high visibility markings. I wanted to get those on before doing this because this is paper and I don't want any water coming anywhere near it. Now, I created these images using an inkjet printer, which if anyone has ever had something printed on an inkjet printer get wet, you know water and inkjet ink do not mix. They mix very well, and they cause the color to run. So I had experimented with paint or with spraying my artwork with a fixative to try to eliminate that, and I found it really didn't help too much. So I just took my images to a Staples store and I photocopied them, and the toner that photocopiers use generally is not affected by water. So, and not only that, it has a little bit of a shiny finish, which I wanted. So I'm putting spray adhesive on the backs of these, and you can see this piece is already down. And the idea is it will just glue on, and this is basically the way the graphics on the real truck is done. Is it's big sheets of this image material are just basically glued on to the trailer. Boy, this thing is huge and awkward and difficult to film. Here we've got our back artwork, and it's not really off center because I'm not putting it down on the last panel. Hopefully that doesn't look too bad. See, when I put it on, it's more centered. I really didn't want to be putting paper over all this detail on the bottom, and I knew I wanted the decals and everything to be applied there. So that'll be glued on. One more thing I want to do before I declare this complete. Got all the decals on, all the little grubby bits on, the lights, everything like that. But one of the things I'd like to do is to put the airlines that go between the sliding bogie here and the actual trailer frame. Now, usually they kind of come out and they hang down, and there's oftentimes a spring that kind of pulls it forward. So the idea is when the wheel's all the way forward, the spring kind of takes up the slack of the airlines, so that way they're not dragging on the pavement and the bogie is free to move back and forth. So this is usually something you can see underneath. So I have here a spring that came from a ballpoint pen, and for the airlines themselves, I'm going to use some wires from a set of headphones. I don't know how often you still use wired earbuds, but I used to have a bunch of them that were broken, and I can't find any more. So I went to Dollarama, and I bought these for $1.25. And I think probably if you went to the hobby shop to buy some sort of material you could use for airlines or hydraulic lines, you'd probably pay more than this. So I don't look at this as destroying a pair of cheap earbuds. I look at it as buying some hobby material. All right, so here is my air hoses. Now I know there should be probably some wires going down there and some other paraphernalia. And there shouldn't be a giant Robertson screw holding into the underside, the spring. But I'm not planning on looking at this from the underside, and I'm just going to throw some gray paint on that. I just basically wanted to represent, the basic airlines going to the bogie. And I know the airlines don't really poke through the floor. They would snake along the underside here. When it's sitting on its wheels and its landing gear, I wanted it to look like a rail trailer, with the airline just kind of hanging down here and going back. So if you're planning on putting in the comments, well, you should have modeled this type or that won't actually work. This is a plastic model. It's good enough for me. If it's not good enough for you, you can do something better when you do it. This I'm going to be putting a little bit of rust on. Like I said, I'm going to be painting the screw some gray. You can't see it when it's flipped over. All right, time for the show-off pictures. Got our turntable. Ready to go? Good. We've got our model and let's see. There we go. That'd work. Maybe that's not what I'm looking for. So, in terms of overall footprint, this thing's about the second largest model I've ever built. After my 1/72nd scale Snowberry. So, we're just going to have to go with me holding the camera by hand. We know how unsteady I am, so hopefully nobody gets seasick and throws up. But here it is in all of its glory. And we can see the refrigerated end here. I'm pretty sure that all of Loblaws' trailers actually have the control panel for the reefer down here. And they don't have these stairs and everything like this. But that was the way the model came, so I just decided to build it that way. I think this is the better of the two sides, in that I only needed 3 pieces of paper. Because of the way I broke up the image, I needed 4 pieces on the other side. And this was the second side I did, so I had a better idea of how much glue to put on. Now, it is true that you can see the vertical seams, but on the real trailers, you can oftentimes see where the seams, where the very large panels of plastic are. So I wasn't too worried about that. Here is the unloading end. As we said earlier in the video, normally if the door says President's Choice, the artwork on the side is for President's Choice. And if it's a no-name trailer, it'll have a no-name slogan on the back. But both Logan and I decided that since we seem to see this more often, this is what we wanted on the back. And the paper only comes down to the bottom panel, mostly because I didn't want to be putting all these bits and pieces on the paper. So I ended up spraying the whole thing with some semi-gloss just to bring the sheen into the same neighborhood. So I think the technique of basically printing the artwork on paper and then just sticking it on the side actually worked pretty good. Like I said, this is the seam that I'm least proud of. I did not have enough glue on this particular piece, and I had to partially peel it up and brush paint some glue on there. But it certainly is an impressive model. And of course, going back down to the tail end here, they even give you the strap for opening up the door. Anyone who's ever been a receiver in the snow belt knows that in the wintertime, this probably has to be one of the most disgusting things you'll ever touch. After a trailer's gone down the highway for an hour or two, and all the slush and salt and goo gets all in this thing, you have to pick up that strap and reef the door open. That's why truck drivers have gloves. Looking underneath, you can see the airlines. Now, I know there should be at least 2 airlines. There seems to be 3 or 4 in some photos, but there also sometimes seems to be some wiring, possibly for anti-lock brakes or something. I just decided to go for simplicity to throw 2 airlines under there and call it a day, which I think is better than doing nothing at all. I especially want to show off the wheel assemblies that Mobius gives you. As you can see, the area that looks kind of rusty, that's actually the brake drums, and Mobius gives them to you. And if you're careful, you can actually paint the inside of your brake drums silver and leave the rest of them rusty in order to basically replicate the wheel that a real brake drum would be, which I think is kind of a nice touch. Should I ever get my Volvo tractor done, it would be a good candidate to put in front of this one. Although if I do it as a Loblaws tractor, basically the paint seam's going to be pretty boring. It'll just be snow white. However, we do use a lot of outside carriers to pull our trailers, so we oftentimes will get an independent guy who has a sleeper cab, and they sometimes have fun noodling the trailers into our docks and some of the tighter stores. So this wraps up our 2020 Father's Day tribute. As I explained, I picked this subject because the orange cream bars that I've featured on the side here, they were kind of the snack that my dad had a craving for in the last week or so of his life. And I thought, you know what, that would be kind of a cool thing to put on the trailer. Something that it gave him a little bit of pleasure in those last few days. And I think it makes for an attractive subject. So, happy Father's Day to everyone. And thanks for watching. Until next time, just keep on modeling.